The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, and the entire restaurant fell silent. Evelyn Cho Park stood over the trembling server, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she raised her hand. But before she could strike, a calm voice cut through the tension like a knife. "That's enough." Every head turned toward the bar where Amara Reed stood, her dark eyes locked on the woman everyone feared. The air itself seemed to freeze. No one had ever challenged Evelyn Cho Park. No one had ever dared. And in that moment, as the two women faced each other across the pristine dining room of the Pearl Room, everyone knew something was about to break. The question was, who would survive what came next? Welcome back to the True Soul Stories, where we bring you the most captivating dramas and stories you won't believe actually happened. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you don't want to miss what happens next in this story. Trust me, this one gets wild. And if you're already part of the family, drop a comment below and let me know if you've ever stood up to someone powerful. Now, let me tell you about the day a former journalist turned waitress took on London's most feared woman and changed everything. 6 months ago, Amara Reed was someone. She was the investigative researcher who broke the story about corruption in local government housing projects. Her articles were shared thousands of times. Politicians knew her name. But when she refused to drop a story about a media mogul's financial crimes, everything came crashing down. Legal threats. Blacklisting. Within weeks, every door in journalism slammed shut. The woman who exposed the powerful became the woman no one would hire. Which is how she ended up tying an apron behind the polished bar of the Pearl Room, a fusion restaurant in Mayfair where a single meal cost more than her weekly rent. The place dripped with old money and new ambition, the kind of establishment where diplomats met tech entrepreneurs, where deals were made over Wagyu beef and 20-year-old whiskey. On her first shift, Jenny, a veteran server with graying hair and knowing eyes, pulled her aside in the kitchen. The older woman's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted Amara's collar. "Listen carefully. There's one customer you need to know about. When she arrives, you stay out of her way. You don't make eye contact. You definitely don't question anything she says." Amara frowned. In all her years reporting, she'd learned that people only had that kind of power when others gave it to them. "Who is she?" Jenny's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Evelyn Cho Park, wife of Korean real estate tycoon James Park. She's connected to everyone who matters in this city." Last year, a waiter corrected her order. By the end of the week, he couldn't get a job anywhere in London. People say she makes phone calls, and careers end. Marriages end. Businesses end. Before Amara could respond, the temperature in the restaurant seemed to drop. The buzz of conversation faded. Even the kitchen went quiet. Jenny's face went pale. "She's here." Through the kitchen window, Amara watched a woman enter like she owned not just the restaurant, but the entire block. Evelyn Cho Park was in her early 50s, impeccably dressed in a cream Chanel coat that probably cost more than Amara's car. Her black hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her makeup flawless, her posture absolutely rigid. She moved with the confidence of someone who had never been told no, never been denied, never been challenged. The host practically ran to greet her, but Evelyn didn't acknowledge his existence. Her eyes swept the room with cold assessment, and wherever her gaze landed, conversations died. "The usual table," she said, her accent a strange mix of British boarding school and something else Amara couldn't quite place. "And tell the chef if I taste even a hint of ginger today, I'll make sure he's scrubbing toilets in Chinatown by tomorrow." Simon, the restaurant owner, appeared from nowhere, his expensive suit suddenly looking cheap under Evelyn's scrutiny. He nodded rapidly, that desperate smile of someone trying to appease a force of nature. Evelyn sat at her table near the window, the best seat in the house, always reserved, never questioned. She snapped her fingers without looking up from her phone. "Water." Now, Marcus, a busboy barely 20 years old, hurried over with a crystal pitcher. Amara could see his hands shaking from across the room. He poured carefully, so carefully, but a single drop missed the glass and landed on the white linen tablecloth. Just one drop, barely visible. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Evelyn stood slowly, deliberately, like a predator rising to strike. She picked up her napkin with 2 fingers, as if it were contaminated, and dropped it over the wet spot. "Do you see this?" Her voice carried across the silent restaurant. "Do you see what this imbecile has done?" Marcus's face crumbled. "Mrs. Park, I'm so sorry, I can get you. You've ruined my entire experience." Do you know how much this blouse costs? More than you make in 6 months, I'd wager. She turned her cold gaze to Simon, who had materialized beside the table. I want him gone. Now. Simon's face was a mask of professional panic. Mrs. Park, surely we can. One phone call. Evelyn's voice was ice. One phone call to Richard Chun, and your investors will hear some very interesting stories about this establishment. Now, do we need to make that call, or does this incompetent child disappear? The silence stretched out like a living thing. Amara watched as Simon's shoulders sagged in defeat. He turned to Marcus, unable to meet the young man's eyes. Clock out. We'll discuss this later. Marcus walked past Amara on his way to the back, and she saw tears streaming down his face. He'd done nothing wrong. Everyone knew it. But no one said a word. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. Evelyn sat back down, smoothing her skirt with satisfaction. She didn't spare a second thought for the life she'd just destroyed. To her, Marcus wasn't a person. He was an inconvenience, easily disposed of, already forgotten. Amara's hands gripped the bar so hard her knuckles went white. That old familiar feeling was crawling up her spine. The one that got her fired. The one that made her dig when everyone else looked away. Something about this woman wasn't right. Something beneath the designer clothes and diamond jewelry and manufactured authority was wrong. But she said nothing. Not yet. She just watched and remembered. Because Amara Reed knew something Evelyn didn't. Predators always get sloppy when they think they're untouchable. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Evelyn returned every Thursday like clockwork, and each visit brought fresh humiliation for the staff. She sent back soup because it was too warm to enjoy properly. She made Elena, a server in her 40s who'd worked there for years, recite the entire menu 3 times because she wasn't paying attention the first 2 times. She criticized the lighting, the music, the way plates were arranged on the table. The staff learned to move around her like she was radioactive. Conversations stopped when she entered. People volunteered to work in the kitchen on Thursdays just to avoid her section. The fear was palpable, suffocating, absolute. But Amara noticed something else. She noticed the way Evelyn's accent shifted depending on who she was talking to, more British with the wealthy clients, something rougher when she thought no one was listening. She noticed how Evelyn's knowledge of Korean culture seemed oddly superficial for someone claiming a prestigious Seoul background. She noticed the way Evelyn's eyes constantly scanned the room, not with confidence, but with hypervigilance, like someone always expecting to be exposed. Then Min-jae Park started coming in. Evelyn's son arrived one Thursday afternoon, and the dynamic immediately shifted. He was in his early 30s, handsome in an understated way, wearing expensive clothes like they were a costume he'd rather take off. When he walked through the restaurant, he seemed to be apologizing with every step for taking up space. He sat across from his mother at her usual table. Evelyn didn't greet him. She looked at his tie with visible disgust. You look like you dressed in the dark. Are you trying to embarrass me in public? Hello, mother. His voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd learned that showing feeling only gave her ammunition. Amara brought their water. Min-jae's eyes met hers for just a second, and she saw something there. Exhaustion, shame, a desperate plea for understanding. Then he looked away, his jaw tight. Evelyn ordered for both of them, without consulting her son. She spent the entire meal criticizing his posture, his business decisions, his choice of apartment. Min-jae sat there and took it, his face a careful mask, but Amara could see his hands clenching under the table. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. It was a busy Thursday evening, the restaurant packed with influencers, business executives, and minor celebrities. Elena was having a rough shift. Her mother was in the hospital, and she was clearly distracted. When she brought Evelyn's tea, it arrived maybe 30 seconds later than usual. Evelyn's reaction was volcanic. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Every conversation in the restaurant died instantly. Do you think I have time to wait for your incompetence? Evelyn's voice was sharp enough to draw blood. Do you think my time means nothing? I could buy this entire restaurant and fire everyone here before dessert. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Park, I apologize, my mother is. I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about your pathetic personal problems. You're here to serve me, and you failed. Evelyn turned to Simon with deadly precision. This woman is clearly incapable of performing basic tasks. I want her removed from my section immediately, and I expect a formal apology in writing from management. Simon opened his mouth, and Amara could see he was about to cave again, about to sacrifice another employee to appease this woman's cruelty. Elena was crying now, her shoulders shaking, and the other servers looked on with that familiar mixture of sympathy and relief that they weren't the target. Something inside Amara snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, like a door closing on her ability to stay silent. She'd watched this woman terrorize people for weeks. She'd seen lives disrupted, dignity destroyed, all because everyone was too afraid to say what they all knew. Evelyn Cho Park was a bully who'd built her power on fear and everyone else's cowardice. Amara stepped forward from behind the bar, her voice calm and clear. "Mrs. Park, that's not going to happen." The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in the kitchen 2 rooms away. Every eye turned to Amara, including Evelyn's, which were blazing with disbelief. No one challenged her. Ever. "Excuse me." Evelyn's voice was dangerously quiet. "Elena's mother is in the hospital. She's working a double shift to cover medical bills. Your tea was 30 seconds late. I think we can all survive that level of catastrophe." Evelyn's face transformed into something predatory. She took a step toward Amara, and the shorter woman could feel the weight of everyone's fear pressing down on her. But Amara had stared down politicians who'd stolen millions. She'd confronted corporate executives who'd endangered lives. She wasn't about to back down from a bully in expensive shoes. "Do you know who I am?" Evelyn's words were ice. "I know exactly who you are, Mrs. Park. The question is, does anyone else?" The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, and for just a second, Amara saw something flicker across that perfect face. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. "You're fired. Simon, this woman is fired immediately, or I pull every investment connection your restaurant has." But before Simon could respond, Min Jae stood up. His voice was quiet but carried across the room. "Mother, that's enough. Let's go." Evelyn whirled on her son. "Don't you dare." "I said that's enough." Something in Min Jae's tone made even Evelyn pause. He looked at Amara with something like gratitude, then back at his mother with barely concealed disgust. "We're leaving." Evelyn's face went through a series of expressions: shock, rage, calculation. Finally, she grabbed her bag and stormed out, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. Min Jae followed, but he paused at the door and looked back at Amara. He mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Then they were gone, and the restaurant exhaled collectively. Elena grabbed Amara's hand, sobbing with relief and gratitude. Jenny was grinning. Even Simon looked conflicted, like he couldn't decide whether to fire her or promote her. But Amara wasn't done. That night, after her shift ended, she went home to her tiny apartment and did what she did best. She started digging. Because something about Evelyn Cho Park's story didn't add up, and Amara's instincts were screaming that there was more to uncover. The woman was too defensive, too aggressive, too desperate to maintain an image that didn't quite fit. People with real power didn't need to constantly prove it. They didn't need to terrorize waiters and busboys. They were secure in who they were. Evelyn wasn't secure. She was performing, and Amara was going to find out why. And what she discovered would not only destroy Evelyn's carefully constructed empire, but reveal a secret so explosive that it would change everything. Not just for Amara, but for everyone who'd ever been terrorized by this woman's cruelty. But before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments. Have you ever worked with someone who abused their power? How did you handle it? Drop your stories below because some of them might be crazier than this one. Now, back to the story, because things are about to get absolutely insane. Amara spent the next 72 hours doing what she used to do when she was still a journalist, pulling threads until the whole fabric unraveled. She started with the basics: social media, public records, business registrations. Evelyn Cho Park's digital footprint was strangely sparse for someone supposedly from a prominent Seoul family. No childhood photos. No mentions in Korean society pages. No record of her maiden name, Cho, appearing in any significant Korean business or social circles. That was the first red flag. Wealthy Korean families, especially ones with the kind of connections Evelyn claimed, left traces. Charity events, university alumni records, society wedding announcements. But Evelyn appeared in the public record only after her marriage to James Park 7 years ago, like she'd been born fully formed at 43. Amara dug deeper. She used translation software to search Korean news archives. She cross-referenced names, dates, locations. And then, at 2 in the morning on the third night, she found it. A grainy photo from a Korean entertainment website dated 15 years earlier. The headline translated to reality show contestant embroiled in scandal. The woman in the photo was younger, with different hair and heavier makeup, but the bone structure was unmistakable. It was Evelyn. Or rather, it was Jin Choi, a contestant on a dating reality show called Love Market, who'd been kicked off the program for allegedly manipulating other contestants and lying about her background. According to the articles Amara translated, Jin had claimed to be from a wealthy Busan family, but investigation revealed she'd grown up in poverty, dropped out of high school, and had a history of petty scams and identity fraud. The scandal had been significant enough in Korea to blacklist her from entertainment entirely. And then, Jin Choi disappeared from the Korean internet. No follow-up stories. No social media presence. Nothing. Until 7 years later, when she resurfaced in London as Evelyn Cho Park, married to a wealthy real estate developer who was 20 years her senior and, according to public records, had been widowed just 18 months before the marriage. Amara leaned back in her chair, her heart racing. This was it. This was why Evelyn was so vicious, so controlling, so desperate to maintain her image. Her entire life was a performance. The accent, the mannerisms, the claims of prestigious background, all of it was carefully constructed fiction. She wasn't some elite Korean socialite. She was a con artist who'd reinvented herself and was terrified of being exposed. But Amara needed more. She needed the kind of evidence that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. She spent another week digging, cross-referencing, verifying. She found Jin-hee's old social media accounts under various names. She found testimonies from other reality show contestants describing her manipulative behavior. She even found an interview with Jin-hee's former classmate, who confirmed her impoverished background. The question was, what to do with it? Amara wasn't a journalist anymore. She had no platform, no editor to back her up, no legal team to vet her sources. She was just a waitress with explosive information about a powerful woman who'd already demonstrated her willingness to destroy lives. The decision was made for her the following Thursday. Evelyn returned to the Pearl Room like nothing had happened, like her public humiliation the week before was already forgotten. She sat at her usual table and immediately began terrorizing a new target, Daniel, a sous chef who'd been asked to personally present a special dish. Daniel approached the table nervously, a beautifully plated halibut with citrus reduction balanced on his palm. He began to explain the preparation, his voice trembling slightly. Evelyn listened for approximately 10 seconds before interrupting. Stop. Just stop. She pushed the plate away without tasting it. This looks like something you'd serve at a roadside diner. Did you even go to culinary school? Or did you learn to cook from YouTube? Daniel's face went red. Mrs. Park, I trained in Paris under. I don't care where you claim to have trained. This is insulting. Simon. She raised her voice without looking away from Daniel, her eyes boring into him with malicious pleasure. I want this man removed from my meal service, and I want a formal complaint filed about the decline in quality of this establishment. Simon appeared, looking sick. The restaurant was packed again. Influencers, business people, even a minor celebrity sitting 3 tables away. Everyone was watching. Everyone was waiting to see who would be sacrificed this time. Except this time, Amara was ready. She'd spent a week preparing for this moment, and she wasn't going to let another person be destroyed by this woman's pathological need for control. She walked slowly across the restaurant, her phone in her hand, her heart hammering but her face calm. She stopped next to Evelyn's table, and the room went silent again. People remembered what had happened last week. They were waiting for the encore. Mrs. Park, Amara said quietly, I think we need to have a conversation. In private. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. Simon, remove this woman from my presence. I think you'll be interested in this. Amara held up her phone, showing the grainy photo from the Korean entertainment website. Because I don't think everyone here knows the real story about Jin Choi. Or should I say, the real story about you. The color drained from Evelyn's face so fast, it was almost comical. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since Amara had met her, Evelyn Cho Park looked uncertain, vulnerable, exposed. I don't know what you're talking about, Evelyn said, but her voice had lost its commanding edge. It was higher, tighter, almost panicked. I think you do. I spent the last week researching you. Want to know what I found? There's no record of any Cho family matching your supposed background in Seoul. No private schools, no society weddings, no charity events. But there is a record of Jin Hee Choi from Busan, who was kicked off a reality TV show for lying and manipulation, who disappeared after the scandal, who resurfaced years later in London with a new name, a new accent, and a very convenient marriage to a recently widowed millionaire. The restaurant had gone from silent to absolutely paralyzed. Min Jae, sitting across from his mother, was staring at Amara with his mouth open. Even Simon had frozen in place, unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Evelyn stood up slowly, and for a moment Amara thought she might actually become violent. But instead, Evelyn's face twisted into something ugly and desperate. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I will destroy you. I will destroy your family. I will make sure you never work anywhere in this city again. Go ahead. I've already been destroyed by people more powerful than you. Amara's voice was steady, almost gentle. But here's the thing. You built your entire life on fear. You terrorize people because you're terrified someone will figure out you're not who you claim to be. Well, guess what? Someone did. And now everyone knows. She raised her voice just enough to carry across the restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Jin Hee Choi, former reality show contestant, former small-time con artist, currently pretending to be someone she's not, and bullying innocent people to maintain the illusion. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Then, like dominoes falling, the reaction rippled through the room. Phones came out. People started whispering. Someone near the window actually laughed, a shocked, disbelieving sound that broke the tension like a stone through glass. They stood there in silence, and something shifted. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. I should go, he said, stepping back. But he didn't move. And neither did she. Min-jun, she started. Don't. He cut her off gently. Don't say anything you might regret. You're confused right now. I don't want words you'll take back tomorrow. He left, and she stood alone, her heart a confused mess of loyalty and guilt, and something new that scared her. The next week, everything exploded. Amara was reading when shouting erupted. Male voices, angry. Then a crash. Min-jun burst into the living room, blood dripping from his lip, fury radiating from him. Pack a bag, he said tersely. Now? We're leaving. What? What? The council found out about James's visit. They're calling it a breach. He grabbed her arm. Urgent. There's going to be a vote tonight on whether to take you from my protection, or eliminate you. Her blood froze. What does that mean? It means they want to kill you to punish me. He pulled her toward her bedroom. I'm not letting that happen. Pack. 20 minutes. She moved on autopilot while Min-jun made calls. Mrs. Han appeared with her passport. Be safe, Mrs. Kong. The older woman said, tears in her eyes. 10 minutes later, they were in an elevator heading to an underground garage. A black car waited. Min-jun pushed her into the back seat and climbed in beside her. Where are we going? Safe house outside the city. Somewhere the council doesn't know about. He was texting. We'll be safe there while I figure out how to fix this. Fix this? Min-jun, they want to kill me. He looked at her, fierce protectiveness taking her breath away. They'll have to go through me first. And I promise you, that won't be easy. The drive took 2 hours into the mountains. The safe house was a traditional hanok, beautiful and isolated. Security was everywhere. Inside, the house was warm, a fire burning. Min-jun finally stopped moving and just stood there, exhaustion and fear washing over him. I'm sorry, he said quietly. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. Stop. She moved toward him, and for the first time, she was the one closing the distance. This isn't your fault. You're trying to keep me safe. It's not enough. He looked at her, raw emotion making her chest ache. You could die because of me. You're still trying to let me go? Even when it costs you. She reached up and touched the cut on his lip, gentle. Even when it might get you killed. He caught her hand, holding it against his face, and the touch burned. I'd die before I let them hurt you. I know. And she did know. This man loved her. Maybe had loved her from the moment he'd seen her name on that contract. Loved her enough to fight his own people to protect her. And somewhere in the chaos, she'd started loving him back. The realization hit her like lightning. She loved him. Not instead of James, but alongside. Differently. Complicated and impossible and absolutely real. Min-jun, she whispered. Don't. His voice was rough. Don't say anything you'll regret when this is over. What if I won't regret it? He stared at her, hope and fear warring. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know what I feel anymore. I'm saying when I thought they might take me away from you, I was terrified. Not just of them, but of losing you. Of never getting to figure out what this is. Of never knowing if we could have been something real. The words hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Minjun looked at her like she'd just handed him the world. I can't kiss you, he said, his voice aching. I want to. God, I want to. But not like this. Not when you're scared. When I kiss you, it needs to be because you chose me freely. Because you want me, not because circumstances forced it. You're infuriating. But she smiled, small and sad. Then I'll want you to want it tomorrow too. And the day after. He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in. I can wait, Amara. I've gotten very good at waiting. They stood there, foreheads touching, and it was more intimate than any kiss. A promise. A possibility. The next 3 days were tense. Minjun made calls, negotiated, threatened. Amara watched him work and understood why people followed him. He wasn't just feared. He was respected. On the 4th day, James found them. She didn't know how. But suddenly he was there, at the gate, demanding to see her. Minjun's face went blank. Do you want to see him? I don't know. See him, Minjun said finally. You need to. You won't be able to choose until you do. So she went to the gate, and there was James, looking wild and desperate. Amara, thank God. He grabbed her through the bars. I heard something went wrong. Are you okay? I'm fine. Minjun protected me. Protected you? James stared at her. Amara, he's the reason you need protection. It's more complicated. No, it's not. He reached through, cupping her face. I love you. You love me. We're supposed to be together. Come with me. Right now? I have a car waiting. A month ago, she would have said yes. But now, I can't, she heard herself say. What? I can't leave. Not yet. Why not? His eyes searched her face, and slowly, understanding dawned. Oh God. You have feelings for him, don't you? She wanted to deny it. But she'd never lied to James. I don't know what I feel. Everything's confused. That's a yes. He stepped back, pain etched into his face. You fell for your kidnapper. James. No, I get it. Stockholm Syndrome. He's been manipulating you. His voice rose. But it's not real, Amara. Whatever you think you feel, it's not real. Maybe. She felt tears building. Or maybe it's more complicated. Maybe I can love 2 people at once in different ways. Do you still love me? Yes. She said it without hesitation. I do. You're good and kind and everything I thought I wanted. Thought you wanted? He caught the past tense. And now? She looked back at the house, where she could see Minjun watching. Even from a distance, she could feel his gaze. I don't know, she whispered. I need time. James was quiet. How much time? I don't know that either. I can't do this anymore. His voice cracked. I can't sit around waiting for you to choose between me and the man who ruined our lives. I love you, but I can't be in limbo forever. I'm not asking you to wait. The words hit like a bomb. James stared at her, devastated. You're really choosing him? I'm not choosing anyone. I'm saying I need to figure this out on my own. And if that means you move on, then maybe that's what needs to happen. I don't want to move on. Tears streamed down his face. I want you. Only you. I know. She was crying too. And I'm sorry. You deserved better than this. He reached through one last time, touching her face. I'll wait. I'll give you time. But not forever. I understand. He left, and she stood watching him drive away, her heart breaking. When she turned back, Minjun was there. Are you okay? No. She walked past him. But I will be. That night, she couldn't sleep. She found Minjun in the main room, staring into the fire, whiskey in his hand. Can't sleep either? Haven't slept properly in months. He glanced at her. Since the day I signed the papers making you my wife. She sat beside him, close enough to feel his warmth. I told James the first needed time. That I couldn't choose right now. I heard. He took a drink. I'm sorry. Do you want me to choose you? I don't understand. Why are you telling me this? Minjae pulled out his phone and showed Amara a photograph. It was a spreadsheet, dense with numbers and dates and transaction codes. My father's company isn't just about real estate development. They launder money for some very questionable international clients. I've been gathering evidence for months, trying to build enough of a case to go to authorities without putting my own life at risk. Amara's mind raced. This was bigger than she'd imagined. This wasn't just about a bully getting her comeuppance. This was about organized financial crime, international corruption, the kind of story she would have killed to break back when she was still a journalist. Why are you showing me this? Because you're the only person I've met in years who isn't afraid to tell the truth, regardless of the consequences. Min-jae's voice was urgent now. And because my father knows you exposed my mother, he's going to come after you, not legally, but through pressure. He'll try to get you fired, blacklisted, maybe worse. Unless you have leverage. And this is leverage? This is everything. If he threatens you, you threaten him right back. Mutually assured destruction. It's the only way you stay safe. Amara looked at the spreadsheet, her old instincts screaming. This was dangerous. This was the kind of thing that got people killed or disappeared. But it was also the truth, and wasn't that what she dedicated her life to exposing? Before the blacklisting, before the legal threats, before she ended up serving drinks to people who'd never see her as more than staff? I need to think about this, she said finally. Min-jae nodded, standing up. I understand. But think fast. My father doesn't wait long before he acts. He paused at the door, looking back. For what it's worth, what you did took courage most people don't have. My mother destroyed lives for sport. You gave her victims their dignity back. Whatever happens next, that matters. After he left, Amara sat in the coffee shop for another hour, staring at her own reflection in the window. She'd thought exposing Evelyn was the end of the story. Instead, it was just the beginning. She'd kicked over a rock and found something much darker underneath. The question was, did she have the courage to finish what she'd started? Or had she already pushed her luck as far as it would go? The answer came faster than she expected. That evening, Amara arrived at the Pearl Room for her shift to find Simon waiting at the back in trance, his face grave. We need to talk. Her heart sank. I'm being fired. I got a call this morning from James Park's lawyer. They're threatening to pull their investment in the restaurant unless I terminate your employment immediately. They're also threatening legal action for defamation against his wife. Defamation? I exposed the truth. I have evidence. Simon held up his hands. I know. And I told them to go to hell. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. But you need to understand what you're up against. These people don't just have money. They have connections to lawyers, politicians, people who can make your life very difficult. I know what I'm up against. And she did, more than Simon realized. She thought about Min-jae's offer, the spreadsheet on his phone, the nuclear option sitting in her back pocket. But I'm not backing down. I didn't think you would, which is why I'm not firing you. Simon's voice was firm. But I can't protect you from what might come next. Be careful, Amara. People like the Parks don't fight fair. The next few days were tense. Amara kept expecting lawyers, or worse, but nothing came. The Pearl Room returned to a strange new normal. Staff members walked a little taller, customers whispered about the woman who'd exposed the infamous Mrs. Park, and Evelyn's table by the window sat empty every Thursday. Then, on Friday morning, Amara woke up to 17 missed calls and a text from Jenny that read simply, "Turn on the news." Now, she grabbed her laptop and pulled up the BBC. The headline made her breath catch. Real estate mogul James Park under investigation for international money laundering. The article detailed a massive investigation involving Park's company, several international banks, and what authorities were calling one of the most sophisticated money laundering operations in recent UK history. The evidence had been provided anonymously, but was extensive and damning. James Park had been arrested that morning. His assets were frozen. His business empire was collapsing in real time. Amara's phone rang. "Min-jae, did you?" She started. "I couldn't wait anymore. After what he tried to do to you, I realized he'd never stop. People like him, like my mother, they can't change. They can only be stopped." His voice was steady, calm, free. "I'm leaving London. Starting over somewhere my family name doesn't follow me. But I wanted to thank you first. You showed me what courage looks like." After he hung up, Amara sat on her couch, trying to process everything that had happened. She'd started this journey wanting to expose one bully. Instead, she'd inadvertently brought down a criminal empire. Evelyn Cho Park, the woman who'd terrorized staff and customers alike, was now facing her own reckoning as her husband's arrest brought new scrutiny to her fabricated past. Min-jae had finally escaped his toxic family, and Amara herself had somehow emerged not just unscathed, but vindicated. That evening at the Pearl Room, the atmosphere was celebratory. Customers came in specifically to meet the woman who took down the Parks. Elena hugged Amara, so tight she could barely breathe. Even Simon seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted from the entire establishment. But as Amara served drinks and accepted congratulations, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't really over. Because later that night, As she was closing up, she found an envelope slipped under the staff door. No return address. Just her name in elegant handwriting she didn't recognize. Inside was a single photograph and a note. The photo showed a woman she'd never seen before. Asian, middle-aged, expensively dressed, standing outside what looked like a private club. The note read, "You think you've won? You exposed one family. But there are others. Many others. And they're watching. If you're brave enough to keep going, call this number." Below was a phone number with an international code Amara didn't recognize. She stood in the empty restaurant, the note trembling in her hands, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and that old familiar feeling, the one that had gotten her into journalism in the first place, the one that made her dig when everyone else looked away, the one that had just brought down the Parks and might, just might, be about to uncover something even bigger. The question was, did she answer the call? And that's where I'm leaving you today. Did Amara call that number? Who sent the photograph? And what other powerful families might be hiding secrets they'd kill to protect? If you want to find out what happens next, you need to drop a comment right now asking for part 2, because trust me, this story goes places you won't believe. Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss it when I post the next chapter. Hit the like button if this story had you on the edge of your seat. And tell me in the comments, would you have exposed Evelyn, or would you have stayed quiet to protect yourself? I read every single comment, and your answers might just influence how I tell part 2. Until next time, remember, the truth might be dangerous, but silence is deadlier. I'll see you in the next one.